right now. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the December meeting of the Park Hills Civic Association. My name is Alan Bowser. I'm the president of the Park Hills Civic Association, along with Cheryl Gardner, our vice president, Nina Vucinic, our treasurer, and Carol Gilbert, our secretary. We are proud to represent the neighborhood. This evening, we're going to have an exciting program discussing traffic and pedestrian safety issues along Dale Drive and Wayne Avenue. Our colleague and former president, Chris Richardson, and neighbor Kelly McDonald will be handling that program. We've got 40 people on the call. Usually we go and ask everybody to introduce themselves, but we are not going to do that this evening. And hopefully my dog will stop barking. It's just not helpful. But we do have some association business that we'd like to take care of. Nina, can you give us a treasurer's report? I think that's a no. So Nina, so that's not going to work. Nina, there's something wrong with your connection. Yep, it's not going to work. So Nina, you have to unplug that mic head. That's not going to work. So we're not going to be able to hear from our treasurer, Nina Vucinic, and she would have told you that we have about $1,200 in our treasury, and that those of you who would like to pay dues, our dues during the pandemic are $10, and you can pay online via our website and PayPal, or you can send a check to me or to Nina. My address is 409 Deerfield Avenue, and I will put that information in the chat. Thank you, Nina. We also asked our secretary, Carol Gilbert, if she'd like to say anything. Carol, any information did you like to share with us? And I'll handle the waiting room now. Carol, you're muted. No, Carol, we can't hear you because you're muted. Okay.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to tell you we have the meeting minutes from May 26, 2021. It was a virtual meeting. And the agenda was invasive plants, possible changes to county zoning code, purple line update, summer food truck and ice cream plan. And normally I hand these out, but since I can't hand them out, you're gonna have to trust me that I wrote down what happened, and we just need to approve the minutes, and then they'll get posted on the website.
So I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the May 26 Park Hills Civic Association meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
A second? It's been first and second, and all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The minutes are approved. I'd like to make a few announcements. Our executive committee, talking among ourselves, feel the need we should pass the mantle of leadership on to a new generation. So if people are interested in serving as president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer of Park Hills, please indicate to one of the officers, and we'll have elections for a new executive committee. I wanted to note that at the past year during the pandemic, we've done some interesting things. Most interesting, I think, was our ice cream socials that we've had in Nolte Park. I'm going to thank everybody who supported that program. Depending on the weather, our next event will be sweeping the creek on Martin Luther King Day of Service. Chris has been doing that for some years, and we expect that we will do it again in 2022. Our next Civic Association meeting like this will be in February 2022, when we're going to again bring up the issue of long-range planning and zoning. So stay tuned for that. That's what I have right now. I'd like to turn the program over to Chris Richardson and to Kelly to introduce tonight's guest and to lead the discussion. So Chris, over to you.
Thank you. Give me a thumbs up if everyone can hear me.
We can.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so I have put together a presentation with input from other officers and residents, including Kelly and other people on the other side of Wayne Avenue. Some of my advisors have cautioned me from presenting so much information in this one deck, but given the historic nature of this meeting, where we have people from State Highway Administration, County Department of Transportation, also MCPD, I would rather err on the side of inclusiveness. So that having been said, one way I'm going to keep this presentation from being boring is I'm going to zip through it pretty quickly. I just posted in the chat the link that's of this PDF file that's posted on the Park Hills website. So please understand that if I'm going too fast, you can use the link to refer to the slides in the presentation, and know that we'll make sure that this information is easily available either on the website, or I can shoot you the file directly if for any reason you want me to do that. So that having been said, here we go. Tonight's quest is to improve safety in this entire Wayne Dale corridor. That means the feeding streets that that connect to Wayne and Dale, not just the Wayne and Dale intersection itself, although that is a major source of concern. Note that on the screen above you is an image that I scanned from my own copy of a catalog of WPA buildings. That's right. The former Blair High School was built using federal funds from the Works Progress Administration in the 1930s. And as it says on the top of the image, that our former high school, which is now Sims Middle School and Sligo Creek Elementary, was originally built and completed in September 1935 at a project cost of $275,000. There. Now let's continue. There is, like I said, lots of content, but we want to make sure that we're clear up front that there will be some asks, and the asks are in the slide pertaining to 3 issues: safety along Wayne Avenue, safety along Dale as well, and also the Dale Wayne intersection, the school crossing as well, and speeding along Dale Drive, with suggested action steps for all 3 of these major issues. This is a sneak peek at the asks, and the presentation will have justifications for why we are making these recommendations. So let me just jump ahead to, let's continue with the slideshow. This first few slides are from the 2019 presentation that was made at Sims School. So these I'm going to go through fairly quickly. This is a reminder that Wayne Avenue from the top of the hill at Fenton down to Sligo Creek is deceptively steep. It's about a half mile with a 120-foot drop in elevation. The slope of this road, in combination with little to no speed enforcement, makes for chronic safety concerns, particularly in the school zone. When we presented in 2019, one of our residents who's no longer here, Max Steele, who was a Marine and a very committed safety advocate for the community, put together a very compelling video that you can link to yourself, that shows that basically that as all those of us residents who've lived in the community for a long time know, that is an impossible to drive eastbound on Wayne Avenue downhill, keeping to the speed limit without engaging the brakes the entire length downhill. Crash data from 2015 to 2018 supports our daily experience that there is a lot of unsafe behavior on Wayne Avenue. So this crash data, while it's old, is not current. It does reflect the experience that there is a lot of there are not only unsafe incidents with pedestrians, but there's a lot of crash behavior that takes place. Shortly after we gave our presentation on May of 2019, we had a pretty dramatic flipped car incident that took place a few months later in October. Just about 2 weeks ago, there was an even more recent incident where one of our officers who lives close to Wayne Avenue reported that the car flipped 4 times in this most recent incident. Using the county's own data from Vision Zero, one thing that's important to point out that while on the one hand, there are fewer people on the road in the last couple of years in this COVID period, for those who are on the road and involved in a crash, there's a noticeable increase in speeding, impaired and unbuckled drivers, and this increase in risky behavior has been a nationwide trend. And as a result, fatalities were up 34% in Montgomery County compared to the prior 4-year average. That's the big takeaway from this Vision Zero data. Thanks to Kelly McCullough, who interviewed 3 crossing guards in November of 2021. She has compiled their recommendations. First of all, the big issues that they see on a daily basis, and also necessary improvements that would make the daily walk to school safer for everyone, and not just school families. Also, just as a point of knowledge, crossing guards are hired by MCPD, not MCPS. Therefore, it makes these recommendations and these reported issues gives it some credibility. The one thing that is a concern about Wayne is if you have vehicles that are regularly traveling above 25 miles an hour, and you also have stretches where the sidewalk is right next to a roadway, that makes for a dangerous combination. So this slideshow points out parts of Wayne from down by the creek all the way up to the top of the hill where you're walking right next to the roadway. As I mentioned at the top of the presentation, there are 3 blind curves on Wayne. The first one is here by the field house. The second one is here by the bend as you approach Mansfield Road. And for those who are new to the community or perhaps may not know this already, that light at Mansfield is there as a result of a fatality. Back when this was a Blair High School, a student, Michelle Renee Wilson, was hit by a speeding vehicle coming around that blind curve. So that's why there's a light at Mansfield. The third blind curve happens past Dale Drive as you go up the hill, approaching Springvale Retirement Community. This is a stretch, as I mentioned before, where there are areas where you're walking right next to the roadway. The one thing that does soften the safety aspect of this stretch of road is if you look at the picture on the right, the street parking in the curb lane helps soften the danger of the blind curve combined with utility poles in the middle of the sidewalk. There's some safety hotspots that are worth pointing out. One is by the field house at Mansfield Road. You have choke points, and those choke points are very narrow parts of sidewalk that are right next to roadway. And you'll see that there's a steep hill where the middle school kids often come running down the hill, and they need to stop quickly so as to not fall into traffic. So that's one of our major areas of concern. Another safety hotspot is Wayne Avenue opposite the retirement community at Springvale Road. Notice that the striped crossing is faded, as all the pedestrian crossings are on Wayne and throughout the community. 2 days before we were giving our presentation at Sims School, there was a brazen incident that involved Max Steele and his entire family in the middle of the pedestrian crossing. One of our school parents, Ronnie McGaskey, witnessed this incident. Those who live on Wayne near this particular pedestrian crossing have told me all kinds of incidents involving hostile drivers and near collisions with pedestrians. By contrast, I wanted to point out some of the things that I've seen in my travels in the local area. I work at home. I don't travel very far, but when I do travel, I often travel to regular appointments just inside DC, through by Piney Branch Road. I'm often in Flower Avenue over by approaching College Park, and also in the neighborhood. So I watch very carefully to see what's happening. And I've noticed that in the couple of years since COVID has been introduced, there's been a number of communities that have taken action to shore up safety. One area that's worth pointing out on Piney Branch Road is Tacoma Park Middle School. Not only do they have speed cameras that are activated in the school zone to keep cars at the speed limit, but they did something that a lot of us thought was pretty radical. Without any warning, they installed a stop sign, all-way stop at Ritchie Avenue. This means that Piney Branch Road, which is a major DC artery, they're sacrificing throughput in order to have safety. And I've noticed that when I do my regular appointment in Tacoma Park, driving back at 5:30 in the evening, you can see the ramifications of the stop sign at Ritchie Avenue. It was a bold step and it means increased traffic, but on one hand, but it means safety on the other. If a little further down to Piney Branch Road, heading towards DC, in front of the Tacoma Park DC Elementary School, they have a radar speed sign that shows your speed with target limit. And then on a connecting street to Piney Branch on Dahlia, they have a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit flashing sign that helps keep traffic down in the streets immediately around the school. Also, speed cameras are employed in the school zone on Brookville near Linden Lane, adjacent to Yeshiva of Greater Washington. Those speed cameras have been in effect for quite some time. And as indicated by the traffic, everyone slows down to 25 during that stretch. And I remember when there were no speed cameras at that particular spot. Also worth pointing out, there are speed cameras in continuous operation on Colesville Road, close to us near Gray Rock Drive as you approach Dale Drive from the Beltway. For these reasons, given Wayne Avenue's steep serpentine configuration and a lack of consistent traffic enforcement, which with noticeably fewer police vehicles in our neighborhood since the relocation of District 3 from Sligo Avenue to White Oak. For these reasons, we feel that the reactivation of the speed cameras on Wayne on both sides of Dale is warranted due to chronic safety concerns along the school corridor that require attention. That is one of our asks. Here's another ask. Wayne Avenue at Sligo Creek Parkway. If you're on foot and you're crossing from one side of Wayne to the other, it can be very intimidating. The light signal has a left turn arrow first, so cars get preference. The left turn arrow turns off, and then it's just a straight, solid green, as the middle picture shows. That's the moment when you're allowed into the intersection to cross. But psychologically, it's very scary because you are in the way of the motorists who want to turn onto Wayne. What if we reverse the process and had, as is being done on Fenton Street at Ellsworth, a four-way red light at the beginning of each light cycle? That way, pedestrians would have a sufficient time to cross as the first priority, then motorists would be allowed to proceed. This is a request for traffic engineers to reconfigure so that safety is not sacrificed when crossing that wide roadway. Safety hotspots. As I mentioned before, Wayne and Mansfield, Wayne and Springvale. There's also these have pedestrian crossings, faded pedestrian crossings. There's one more on Wayne across from St. Michael's Church. That's 3 non-signalized pedestrian crossings, 3 pedestrian crossings that are not at signalized intersections. Without additional help it is challenging to use those pedestrian crossings. Our recommendation is to do what is being done at Dale and Dartmouth, where there's a new hawk beacon, a high intensity self-activated crosswalk. Our proposal is to consider putting hawk beacons at the pedestrian crossings on Wayne. That would be Mansfield, Springvale, St. Michael's Church. Without a safety beacon, without a hawk beacon or some other type of safety mechanism, then the only safe crossings, without those kinds of mechanisms, without a hawk beacon or something similar, then the only safe crossings on Wayne are at signalized intersections. And that's something that we need to know in our community, whether or not we are able to cross Wayne at non-signalized intersections, because, well, hopefully that's obvious. Purple Line construction. This next set of slides talks about incidents that involve Purple Line construction during the school year. This first slide talks about an incident on November 18th, where there was sidewalk obstructions that made it difficult for families, particularly people with strollers, to navigate that particular part of the sidewalk. This is Dale. This looks like Dale Drive approaching Wayne Avenue. Yes. Other incidents on December 7th. A picture on the left shows a water hose stretching across the road and sidewalk, with the hose moving every time a vehicle drove over it. Crossing guard feels fortunate that no one tripped over the hose. On the picture on the right shows an incident on December 1st with cones blocking a sidewalk and a manhole cover not fully closed, a safety hazard as a result. Also, in the same area of Dale and Wayne, on December 9th, at drop-off time and in the morning at around the 9:15 or so, the loud chaotic construction, the unpredictable traffic patterns, heavy equipment in the median, forcing traffic too close to the curb, machinery operating next to the sidewalk in close proximity to the children. At this point, let me just stop and say that years ago in our discussions with MTA, clarifying expectations around construction, we were told at meetings that there would be great effort made to not, and Alan, you can join in here because I know you heard the same thing, to prohibit construction during the school year. That was before the lawsuit, the Purple Line lawsuit, and the collapse of the Purple Line partnership. And since then, expectations have shifted dramatically in the other direction. There's now construction going on throughout the school year, and including at drop-off and at pickup time. One question that we have is, can we find some sort of middle path whereby if there is going to be construction during the school year, which is different than what was promised to the community, then can the construction be delayed until after drop-off? Can it also be delayed during the pickup time in the mid-afternoon? One or both of those accommodations would be very helpful to the community. Alan, did you want to join in on that point?
I would just agree with you that I remember the commitment that there wouldn't be construction during the school year.
Okay, so yeah, so we're looking for a delaying construction work until after the drop-off time, and hopefully, ideally, during pickup time too. Another incident more recently on December 7th, construction in the roadway, altered traffic patterns caused considerable delay, confusion, congestion. So these are some snapshots to show those who are not here during construction what we're experiencing during the weekday school throughout the school year. One last incident that's worth reporting. This happened just on Monday, yesterday. And I actually talked to one of the members of this group when I was passing out flyers. On Monday morning, kids and parents had to cross the middle of Wayne west of Dale Drive. I'm not sure why, but the second photo, the photo on the right, shows this group of children and their parent getting ready to do a mid-block crossing. So there's some obvious safety concerns there. Matt Engel is a local resident and a development / construction professional who is sorry that he cannot be here tonight.
He showed up. I was able to slip some time in here. So
hey, Matt, did I transcribe your statement?
You did.
As well?
You did.
Okay, so Matt
yeah,
wants
no,
to,
I mean,
Matt,
thank you so much, Chris. And thanks to everyone who's on this call, including representatives of the Purple Line and MDOT. It seems like there's a lot of macro issues on Wayne and Dale that if the construction were not happening would still be problematic. I'm not going to focus on those. That's not my particular issue, although I agree those need to be addressed. I just have seen consistently over the last 3 months an unacceptable level of neglect from the subcontractor working at Wayne and Dale. And I met Matt Pollack, who's on this call, out on the site. He was great, really responsive, very open to listening. But as those photos show, and as my experience has illustrated, it looks and feels like a war zone down there. And there are specific examples related to sidewalks that are closed and obstructed with not good signage, literally lumps of wet asphalt stuck onto the sidewalk trying to bond plates to the sidewalk, storm structures up and down Wayne Avenue that if you stomped on it with your foot, they would disintegrate. There's one currently at Wayne and Cedar that anyone can go look at today. There used to be one down at Wayne and Dale until we complained about it, that trucks have run over and they're literally about to collapse on themselves. There was a complaint earlier last week, I think, about the way that the signage was set up, that the base of the sign was sticking out into the pedestrian path at night so that someone cranked into it with their leg and ankle. And then just general neglect of workers doing their job. But the other day I was trying to walk my daughter to school and there was 7 workers blocking the sidewalk to get down the sidewalk from Dale to the Wayne intersection, one of whom appeared to be smoking a cigarette while working on what I've been told is a relocated gas line. So there does not seem to be any accountability for this particular subcontractor, nor any real recognition that this work is happening in the middle of a very active school zone with small children. And it's got to change. There needs to be someone who needs to regularly inspect this area and act as an accountability steward for that subcontractor, because they are not performing sort of safe and reasonably in that zone. It is not a safe area. And until something happens, we can continue to debate, what's safe and what's not safe, but it's an untenable situation down there.
Matt, thank you for your perspective. It's very valuable. One of the requests at the end of the slide is, it gets at that accountability question. Who do we contact given the lack of clarity around who's is MTA in charge or is the contractor in charge? So you'll see a question towards the end that gets at that issue. So safety too. In 2019, we looked at the 11 utility poles in the middle of the sidewalk between Springvale. This is just between Springvale Road and St. Michael's Church. At that time, we were told that they're scheduled for removal because they are out of compliance for ADA. And so we're just curious to know when that removal date will take place. I did a quick search of, I'm not experienced with the county data, but I did try to pull up interactive crash map for Wayne and Dale, Wayne Avenue specifically. You'll see the data points along Wayne Avenue in this slide. You'll see that there's a cluster of sorts towards Dale, definite cluster at Mansfield, reinforcing our point about the safety hotspot. I added a little box that says residents who live near Wayne will tell you that many incidents go unreported. However, does anyone who live near Wayne want to speak to that issue about the unreported accidents, or should I continue? I'm thinking of one of our officers from Park Hills. Okay, we'll continue. But there's, in addition to what's been reported, there's a lot of stuff that happens that is subject of listserv, local listserv conversations. So we can't consider Wayne in isolation. Safety has to consider Dale Drive as well. The two roads reinforce each other. Dale Drive shares some similarities with Wayne Avenue. They're both steep and serpentine. Dale Drive seems to be even more serpentine with blind curves that are even more blind and very poor sight lines. Both roads seem to invite speeding due to their steepness of elevation. I say that because I walked these streets for 20 years. It's what I see all the time. The picture on the left shows Dale Drive looking uphill towards Mansfield. And one of the big points is that any cars that are traveling beyond 25 miles an hour, they seem to come out of nowhere when they are coming around the bend. Notice that the picture on the left has a sign that urges drivers to go 20 miles an hour down that hill. But I can tell you, drivers often exceed 20 miles an hour on that stretch of Dale heading towards Fleetwood. This slide makes the point that I just mentioned about traveling above 25 miles an hour. Even if you have a striped pedestrian crossing, as we do here at Mansfield and Dale, it is surprising how dangerous it can be with your kids or by yourself to cross, because cars can come around that corner coming from Piney Branch very quickly out of nowhere. So I can't emphasize that enough, the blind curves and the dangerous mix of speeding vehicles going beyond 25 miles an hour. Here's a view, Dale Drive, looking uphill from Galveston. And the community who lives here, people who live in the 200 block of Dale are especially keen advocates for an all-way stop at Dale and Mansfield, something that we've requested for a long time. Residents who live in this general part of Dale will tell you about the numerous accidents in this area that happen due to excessive speed. I believe I was told that one homeowner had 2 vehicles totaled by out of control vehicles crashing into them. Two vehicles in the same household. Our point is, without additional safety mechanisms to slow down vehicles on Dale Drive heading toward and away from Mansfield, an all-way stop at Dale and Mansfield is warranted. Part of the issue with Dale Drive is speed limit is unclear. There are 6 speed limit signs in just a half mile on Dale Drive between Piney Branch and Mansfield and Deerfield. So these two slides show the mixed messages we're getting about speed, perhaps. Also commenting on the fact that it says photo enforced, but they're not. And also on this sign number 5, Dale and Fleetwood, with a flashing light. I'm told that this light is broken or non-operational. So one of our requests is to have that fixed. One thing that's worth pointing out is that I've noticed that on Flower Avenue in recent months, there have been proactive efforts to keep vehicles at 25 miles an hour, and it is a school zone with Adventist University along that stretch. What's interesting is it's a relatively flat terrain. It's a mostly straight roadway, and yet they've installed 3 stop signs, one at Kennebec, one at Wabash, and one at Domer. 3 stop signs, and you can tell they're new because they have the flags on top of them.
Maybe, I don't know.
And also the one thing that's interesting too is that one of the stop signs as you approach Adventist University is an all-way stop. And when you proceed, you have to sort of step down in the roadway. It's almost like a reverse speed bump. It's one of these new innovative safety mechanisms that keep traffic slow, because if you were to start moving at a higher rate of speed, it would hurt your suspension. So I'm impressed with what they're doing on Flower Avenue to keep vehicles at 25. Closer to home, those residents who walk on Grove Street, I've noticed that not only have they done a major road diet on Grove that allows pedestrians and bicyclists to share the roadway, they've also installed a traffic roundabout to calm traffic on that stretch. So again, we're very impressed with new thinking going into traffic safety. 13th Street between Piney Branch and Arkansas is one of my favorite drives as I luxuriate in all the safety mechanisms that have been applied to that stretch of roadway. It's slightly elevated, but they do a good job of keeping traffic relatively to 25 miles an hour. Not only have they installed stop signs where there hadn't been stop signs before, there's also a radar speed sign close to Arkansas. And then as you can see in the picture, there's all these posts everywhere. Street and Piney Branch, all these posts that keep cars from getting close to pedestrians, force them to swing wide, slow down on the turns, don't do these close, fast turns on the inside. But as you can, those of you who've been in this area, probably impressed as I am with all they're doing, new devices to calm traffic and to allow all of us to share the public spaces. So I'm almost done with my presentation. I can't believe I'm on time. This slide has 3 questions, big questions, and they all have to do with coordination between state and county agencies. Keep in mind that Wayne Avenue is now a state road, so State Highway Administration has responsibility or jurisdiction. Dale Drive and all the other nearby feeder streets, those are county jurisdiction. But keep in mind too that the Purple Line is a federally funded transit project. In fact, quite a bit of money comes from the feds. So that's why we've asked our federal elected officials and their staff to join us on this phone call. So the 3 questions are, number 1, and I asked this question knowing nothing about Safe Routes to School. Our question, can Safe Routes to School conduct a safety audit of the streets in the catchment area for both schools? Can we do a safety audit? That sounds like a great idea. See where we need, exactly where we need to shore up pedestrian safety. Second question, given the amount of Purple Line funding at the federal level, is there federal funding that can help pay for safety improvements for which there aren't enough funds at the county and or state level? 3, this is getting back to Matt Engel's point about accountability. Since MTA is no longer solely in charge of the project, it's now a public-private partnership. It's shared jointly. That makes it less clear in the residents' minds about who's in charge and who do we contact at either state highway or MTA with regard to safety issues caused by Purple Line contractors. So that's our third big question involving coordination between these agencies. And then the final slide brings together all the investments in safety proposals that we'd like to see, if not all of them, at least a good chunk of them. So so just as a reminder, and as a summarizing the content from the slideshow, we're looking for reactivating the speed cameras on Wayne Avenue, installing hawk beacons at non-signalized intersections on Wayne between Fenton and Sligo Creek, giving pedestrians first priority at the Wayne Sligo Creek Parkway intersection, installing an all-way stop at Dale and Mansfield, making 25 miles per hour the speed limit on Dale consistently, fix the flashing school sign on Dale Drive at Fleetwood, install traffic calming mechanism on Dale between Hartford and Fleetwood. Because again, the steepness of the slope on Dale, as you approach Piney Branch, we need additional reinforcement in the 200 block of Dale to keep traffic from speeding, which is again a constant concern, a common concern. Finally, implement the safety tips that were suggested by the school crossing guard in one of the earlier slides. And then finally, the safety audit conducted by Safe Routes to School. So I want to keep my time, and that's the gist of our presentation. Alan or any other officers, do you want to jump in and reinforce or highlight anything that I might have missed?
I would just say thank you to the people who have posted very insightful comments in the chat. It'll be a very useful record. Obviously, from the comments, this is a big issue of concern to many of our neighbors. And so I'm glad we're having this conversation. Kelly and Chris, thank you so much for taking the initiative and moving this forward. I thought that the comments and reaching out to the crossing guards was invaluable because they are professionals at pedestrian safety and they've made some very useful comments. Of course, I don't know how you want to proceed. I know that we've got Matt from the Purple Line. We've got Wade from the county executive's office. And
yeah, it would be great to hear from county and state with regards to these safety issues. So either whoever is ready to respond, either Wade Holland for the county, or I know Derek Gunn is not here tonight. Is that Mr. Moges? Is that who I saw for representing State Highway Administration? Okay. Okay. So Mr. Moges, you'll have a chance to respond, and also Mr. Holland. So either one of you can speak to the content in this slide presentation.
I'll let Wade go first if he'd like, because quite a few of these points are county roadway related.
Wade, could you join us and give us your perspective of sort of the macro issues? What do you know about the County Road Dale Drive and the cooperation between State Highway Purple Line and Montgomery County DOT?
Yeah. Thanks for inviting me and to look at these. I can't commit to anything right now because it's the first time I'm seeing all of these lists. But I'm seeing the Dale Drive and Mansfield Road. Is this the intersection that the community has already put in a request for regarding an all-way stop? I think they've talked to Mark Terry and DOT about this.
Yes. This has been a request that we've made previously, for sure.
Okay, and it was a recent request, right? In the last couple of months?
Yeah, so what we've done is we asked for a traffic audit from Wayne Avenue over to Piney Branch along Dale. We got an email back from traffic ops saying that one would be conducted and we'd have the results the January-February timeframe. One of our neighbors, Sue Williams, in the meantime, got a message back from Montgomery County Department of Transportation, said that they had already conducted an audit and there was no reason to do anything on this stretch. So we're confused about who's riding the horse when it comes to this traffic audit. And so we'd like some clarification on that. But part of that would be, what do you do at the intersection of Dale Drive and Mansfield?
Yeah, so Dale Drive and Mansfield. So that one is already underway. So it sounds like you've gotten a response from traffic operations about they're going to do a study and they're going to get back to you in the first quarter of 2022. So that sounds like it's already in the works. In terms of the speed cameras, I can talk to, and that's operated by the police department. I think one of the issues potentially with the reactivation is if there's ongoing construction. So again, obviously the cameras need to see, they have to have a line of sight. So we have to see how, especially the fixed post cameras there, you know, if they don't have a clear line of sight, it's kind of hard to turn them back on during construction. But again, we can look into that. In terms of a full school safe routes to school audit. So, I mean, there's things we can look at in terms of, like, you know, especially the things that are maintenance issues. However, safe routes to school audits have a kind of particular work program they work through each year. It's based on data and also equity. So we build these out. They usually do about anywhere from 3 to 5 a year. So they, you know, it's kind of done throughout the year. So I don't know if that would be in the work plan for the immediate years, but there could be some smaller stuff beyond a full-fledged audit program that could be done there.
And Wade, can you talk about the cooperation, communication between the state and the county authorities?
Yeah, so as mentioned, you know, the Wayne Avenue as part of the Purple Line has been turned over to the State Highway Administration to be maintained by the State Highway Administration. And, you know, we do work, you know, a lot with our state partners on these roads. We also have a county representative who works as a liaison to the Purple Line. And so we have, you know, these constant contacts. So if something, you know, like a county road and state road, if there's an intersection, there's a question, you know, we work together to kind of resolve those issues.
I think one of the concerns was, you know, who do we contact about these ongoing pedestrian and traffic issues on the state highway? Because we have raised these issues before and we haven't seen any improvement over the last couple of years. The problems move from place to place, from venue to venue, but we still have the issues.
Yeah, I'll let SHA answer that so they can give you the best answer for that.
Thank you. So from what I gather, I believe we're focusing on Wayne Avenue, which is the road transferred from MCDOT, Montgomery County to SHA. There is the overlap in that this is all active Purple Line construction. This is Purple Line's LOD. So I would gather that the appropriate parties to contact would be Purple Line's outreach team. And then it would be a safe bet to either copy myself, or you could always submit a request directly to SHA through the CCMS system, at which point, you know, Purple Line will also be notified of the issue. I hope that answers that specific question.
You said
can I just speak to that? This is Matt. You know, the Purple Line, there is a Purple Line response email that's pretty responsive when you quite responsive when you sort of email it with a construction issue. But my issue is that I've done that, you know, 10 times now, and I know other folks have as well. And so it shouldn't be incumbent on us as residents taking our kids to school, we have jobs, to constantly be monitoring whether a contractor is keeping the roads safe. There needs, I get back to that notion of accountability, there needs to be someone at the state or at the county or at the Purple Line who is regularly looking at that intersection through the framework of how a parent or a pedestrian walking the street with a kid would encounter it. Because while the email the email hotline is useful and responsive, I don't think that's the solution here. It's just sort of one means to keep communicating problems. So I'd sort of like to hear what Matt Pollack has to say about that, because he, like I said, was helpful and responsive in meeting us out there. But, you know, I don't think things have gotten better.
Matt?
Matt?
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. I caught the Matt to Matt pass, but I didn't pick up quick enough. So, yeah, I mean, you know, I'm never going to be one who's going to say we can't make things more safe. You know, we always want to try and make things better. It's been a really inconvenient months and years for everybody along the alignment. And, you know, this area is no different, right? I mean, we've been working in the same intersection for, what is it, 4 months now? I mean, Wayne and Dale has turned out to be a really sticky and difficult intersection. And it's certainly not something we wanted. And we know it's absolutely something you all didn't want. So, you know, the feedback that we get is very helpful. Matt meeting us out there was really nice. And it was helpful as well. You know, we're going to try and do better, but I would encourage you obviously to keep contacting us. You know, sometimes Matt does catch stuff that we didn't see. You know, sometimes when you have those trucks making a right turn from Wayne onto Dale and taking out another storm drain, or taking out the same storm drain again, you know, sometimes we don't know about it as quickly as you all do. So it is helpful when you catch those things. Yeah, I mean, it's been a difficult intersection down at Sligo Creek too. You know, our water contractor, we didn't expect to be working through solid rock as they were down there as well. So, you know, hopefully we're getting this work done, and getting some of the work out of the way. I guess, you know, it's not the end of the story, unfortunately, because as our contractor finishes up the gas work working from Dale west, we have sewer work that's going to start up. Let's see, where is it? It's around Springvale, on the south side of Wayne, and they're going to start working from Springvale down to Dale. So there is still work that needs to be done in that area, and so we have to keep trying to do you know, more efficient work ourselves, and being responsive to your needs as well. The gas work is going to keep continuing now that we're working our way away from Dale, continuing west on Wayne. We've got a contractor switch we're doing for the gas work. The folks who were doing the gas work at that intersection, you know, who did have a very tough time, we're moving them on to other work. And so we actually have a different contractor who's going to be working from up near the Whole Foods and working their way east along Wayne. You probably can see them already. I think they've started opening up some trenches, and you can see them laying down those 40-foot lengths of yellow gas pipe as well. So they're going to be working the other way to get that work done.
Well, Matt, is there
Yeah.
there are a couple of just very
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
tangible suggestions that came out of the chat.
Yeah.
One was a question about whether there could be some sort of demobilization of the crews for some small window of time during like very heavy traffic to and from the school. So like, you know, there's a very small window of time in the morning and the afternoon when there's lots of kids out there. And I know contractors don't like downtime, and it's not a good way to get the work done. I get it. But is there anything that can happen to make those time periods less intensive? That was one suggestion. And then the other was, you know, having only one sidewalk available at various different times and then having workers on the sidewalk makes it very difficult to get through. So, you know, I just think a very simple suggestion would be like you know, you got to let the sidewalks be clear during those times. You can't have 8 guys standing on the sidewalk, you know, shooting the shit. And you know, I have great respect for the folks doing the work, but like whoever their site super is needs to communicate that there's a very limited route of passage for parents and kids. And so during these times, it's not just a question of opening and closing the sidewalk. It's also like a question of who is occupying that sidewalk and can you navigate it? So.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But keeping those sidewalks open and making them accessible sidewalks is really important for us. I was pretty bummed out when I saw the email come in, letting us know that we had some folks blocking the sidewalks and possibly taking some restful activities that you know, if I was a kid, I'd find a little intimidating myself. So, you know, that's not what we're trying to do, right? I mean, so I think it's important. I'm sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, it's okay, Matt. I just want to jump in. Since we're talking about this issue, one of the requests that's not on this slide, this last summation slide, I want to ask while it's still fresh, is that a realistic ask from the community to delay morning construction until after drop off? Same thing with afternoon pickup. Is that a reasonable ask?
That I think it is something we looked at and we tried to accommodate right at the beginning of the school year. I don't know that we were necessarily successful with it, but it was something that we tried to do to get folks a little more comfortable with the commute. I think now really our focus is on getting the work done and getting out of your way. Unfortunately, I mean, that's really not the answer you're looking for, Chris.
Well, I understand it's a trade-off.
Yeah.
It's a trade-off. Okay. We had to ask.
Yeah, no, I
let's
appreciate
not,
it.
let's not drop this point.
Mhm.
If it's possible, we should do it. It seems that it is a relatively small window, and that you could work up into the beginning of the window, pause for a period of time, let people get back and forth safely, and then pick up the work. As mentioned or alluded to earlier, we were told that this work was only going to be done during the summer and not year round and not all day. So it's very problematic. And Matt, our big concern is you're likely to be in this space for the next few years, right? 2 years, 3 years. So we don't want to have a meeting like this every 12 months, every 18 months. We'd like to get some indication from State Highway and from MTA that some of these issues are going to be addressed, because kids are going to continue going to school, and we're going to have, as you just described, lots of utility relocations, lots of work going on in this space for a long time. So we really need more than platitudes about we need to do better. We really need to get some constructive solutions to how we're going to handle this particular problem, because as civic association officers, we get complaints all the time. It's the stuff of listserv conversations and Facebook comments, and people are just not happy and they don't feel safe. And we just showed you a fraction of the pictures that we have of kids having to go around cones into the street, you know, during rush hour. And it's just an untenable situation for us. And we're just talking about Wayne Avenue at this point and the state's responsibility. We got a bunch of concerns about Dale Drive as well.
So Alan, if I can jump in, I wanted to point out to Matt Pollack, because he hasn't been around too long, the Wayne Working Group on focused on safety on Wayne Avenue during Purple Line construction started in early 2014. That's almost 8 years ago. Chris, you can confirm a lot of people have come and gone, including contractors. And we've seen
Correct.
nothing. And I'm going to disagree with Alan. I agree. We don't want to see you in 18 months, but I would suggest that we want to see you every single month. We would like to check in with you every month, go through the list, what's been done, what hasn't been done. you know, how take the temperature of how the parents feel walking their kids to school. My younger son went to Sims. He's out of college now, so but I can feel I can feel for all the parents and how worried they are for their kids. So there's got to be a way to make MTA more accountable for this stretch of road. We've focused on this for 8 years with our state legislators, with our congressmen, with our senators. I mean, and nothing is done. And I'm just, am I flabbergasted? I don't know. We're just like a bunch of sheep being led to the slaughter. I look at these pictures of the chaos and the the war zone, as people call it, and I'm just shocked you featured your safety manager in your newsletter today. Where is he? Invite him to Wayne Avenue. Tell us how can the state be more accountable to the people who pay your salary and who are paying for this project?
And just to follow up on that, so, you know, this,
Mhm.
the focus of the conversation so far has been on the traffic and pedestrian safety on Wayne Avenue during the construction period. State's got responsibility for Wayne Avenue, and we've got some serious traffic issues that are not during the construction period, on weekends when they're not working, early in the morning before they mobilize, after they mobilize. Does the state have responsibility for speeding on their highways after the equipment has been put away in the evening? So that's a question for you, Matt. And I see we've got Alyssa's got a question, but Matt, do you have responsibility for Wayne Avenue when the construction is not actively engaged?
The Purple Line is not an enforcement agency, so we don't, you know, have any authority to stop speeders or to, I mean, other than, you know, the same authority you have to stop a speeder. Unfortunately, we're not, I think it's Montgomery County Police that is the enforcement agency. And Joe might know differently.
Roughly, that is correct. Let me try to break down your question. Purple Line is responsible for their traffic control devices and their construction site when they demobilize for the weekend or whenever they're inactive. However, safety and operations of the roadway is MDOT SHA's responsibility.
Okay.
Now, as far as enforcement, you know, anything that's illegal, speeding, any vehicular crashes, that's of course police department's responsibility to enforce and cite. Does that answer your question?
So you mean count
So you're saying-
MCPD can enforce speeding, right? Not just state highway, right?
State highway would not enforce, that would be MCPD. Did I say that wrong?
No,
Yeah, the police department would be enforcing.
okay, I just want to make sure. So yeah, we are expecting MCPD to be the enforcer. Okay.
Yeah, so we kind of skipped through several issues. The speed camera request near Sims along Wayne Avenue. I was involved with this somewhat closely, probably time flies 2 or 3 years ago now. So that speed camera that was along Wayne Avenue, both eastbound and westbound, was a pre-existing condition, if you will. It was transferred from the county to SHA. So that infrastructure was already there. It was requested by local residents and some elected officials to MDOT SHA to reactivate those cameras immediately. We explained that MDOT SHA does not administer any enforcement mechanisms such as that. We may permit them, but we do not manage or control implementation or installation of these. So what we did was we referred to the police department and their speed program, and they declined respectfully, and they explained that their data and their metrics did not justify the reactivation or reinstallation of the speed camera there. However, as a compromise or some good faith effort on our behalf, we, at our expense, MDOT District 3, installed those speed feedback trailers for some time. Again, time flies, probably a year ago now. We have since removed that, and we've developed a new program for speed feedback trailers, which are mobile and to be implemented for a short duration, less than 2 weeks. So that, I just want to summarize that speed camera issue. That is not to be directed at Purple Line or SHA. That would go straight to your police department to request that. Or you could have your elected officials, on your behalf request it from the police department.
And my memory is that in 2019, Congressman Jamie Raskin spoke to MCPD on our behalf about the camera issue. And that was when, as you said, the ultimate response was they respectfully declined. So my hope is that we can revisit this issue with MCPD, who is, as you say, is responsible for this decision.
Well, there's one more thing. So again, just to at least do our best effort to address the local community's concerns, I did explain that there is another option, which is school zone speed enforcement. And I've ensured that with the Purple Line, we're going to submit the necessary paperwork to document and establish formally a school zone along Wayne Avenue from Dale to Mansfield Road. So there is an avenue in the future to have a school zone speed enforcement mechanism, which would operate during school pickup and drop off hours, peak hours. I hope that answers.
Thank you.
What would that look like? Is that a device, or is that just
Very similar to what was pre-existing, just upgraded standards, MDOT standards.
And just to follow up, if on the speed camera issue, if we were able to persuade MCPD that it was justified in that area, State Highway would not have a problem with that. They would support that.
I mean, we wouldn't object. MDOT is agnostic on the program. We would simply review for traffic control safety issues and then permit it. That's our function.
Thank you.
Somebody has their hand up. I don't know if it's a question for me or Chris Meyer.
Well, let's go to Alyssa. Alyssa, are you on here? Do you have questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
It was just thinking long term about Wayne. I've noticed ever since the construction has started that cars actively try to avoid Wayne, so it seems like there's a lot less traffic. I was just wondering long term if it'd be possible to reduce Wayne to one lane in each direction to basically reduce the width of Wayne once the Purple Line is in operation.
That is not part of the plans as of now, and that would be a dramatic design change, which I doubt would be entertained at this point in time. But
yeah, it seemed like even from a Purple Line perspective, it seemed like sharing the lane with the traffic was projected to slow down like the transit times. So it seemed like a win-win-win for everybody to reduce it to one lane of traffic. It just doesn't seem to need that bandwidth of cars.
Yeah, and to second Chris's comment, I would ask if our MDOT expert here knows what the traffic volumes are on Wayne versus a similar facility like Flower or another state signed route like Piney Branch.
I don't have numbers or volumes prepared in my head.
Any point in limiting to one lane in each direction during construction?
I don't understand who would that serve. I think that would cause congestion, excessive congestion, or further exacerbate the existing conditions. I don't see.
Well, I mean, I would say in certain times of the day, it does come down to that, like especially between Mansfield and
pray, amen. I see you all.
Between Mansfield and Manchester, or Mansfield and Sligo, they're often like installing cones to route traffic, and it goes through there like no problem at all when when they've reduced it temporarily to one lane.
So we don't allow that 24/7 for the very reason of safety and operation. So, you know, if they did that 24/7, you certainly would feel it. I mean,
No, I'm saying they do it during rush hour, like in the mornings and in the evenings. Those cones have been in place recently, and it's not caused any congestion in the area. Because I mean, I ride all along the construction between Wayne all the way down Piney Branch, and it's a much different story on Piney Branch in terms of congestion, but on Wayne, there doesn't seem to be any backup. Like, I think that really should be looked at, because I just, there's not a whole lot of volume of cars these days on Wayne.
You're right. I forgot that they actually are permitted to have a long-term lane closure along Wayne, and I think they reinstituted that for their utility relocation work. So you seem to enjoy that, and you'd like that to be considered in the ultimate design, single lane.
Yeah, like, especially because at the Wayne, the one intersection that everybody's talking about is Wayne and Dale, and it's been talked about for years and years and years. And you know, it was dangerous before, and with construction, it's dangerous now. And once the purple line is in operation, now you're going to have a train rolling through that same intersection, and so everybody's kind of up in arms about that. So reducing 2 lanes of traffic would really help safety, you know, because the kids are going to be crossing, but also there's going to be a purple line station right there. So there's going to be a lot of pedestrian traffic crossing all these lanes of cars, when volume wise doesn't seem to necessitate having such a breadth of laneage.
Yeah, and I'd point out that SHA's plans and MDOT's plans for University Boulevard call for a reduction in through traffic from 6 lanes to 4 lanes. Turning lanes are retained at arterial intersections, but on a much wider arterial, you're reducing lane capacity by 33%. And on Wayne, you're retaining all of that lane capacity and kind of ignoring, you know, pandemic and other effects and reductions of traffic on Wayne. So I second Chris's points.
So, you know, down the road, after the purple line is completed, you know, there's opportunity for revisions, incremental approach. You know, we might want to modify the design a bit, but, you know, at this point in time, we're not, I don't want to speak for the purple line. I'll let Matt speak to that, but I doubt that they're going to entertain design changes of that magnitude right now.
Well, certainly from the purple line point of view, we're going to be running in a lane. I mean, purple line, whether or not a car is in front of us or not, that's irrespective of, you know, the purple line's going in the lane it's going to go. So if for some reason magically the cars were taken out of our lane, that's not going to change our design anyway. So I guess what I'm saying is we're agnostic, right? Because our lane is already set, you know, and right now we know we share it with cars.
Well, let's ask Alyssa, do you have a comment?
It was a question sort of prompted by something that I think one of the folks here from MDOT shared with us, and many appreciations for being here for the conversation, specifically having to do with school zones and kind of how this area comes to be declared a school zone or not. I just heard you describe a process via which this will be called a school zone once the purple line is complete. I guess I'm wondering whether either any of my neighbors or any of the kind of transit professionals here can articulate, why is this not a school zone already? Whose jurisdiction is it to make it that? And is there some known reason why it isn't now? And thanks.
Well, I can just say that it was transferred to us in 2017, and MDOT-SHA has not recognized or established it as a school zone since. So I found an opportunity to potentially install school zone speed cameras through that mechanism. So, you know, we have quite a few roadways that have been transferred to MDOT as part of the purple line. So it needs to get into our system, our database, and there's a series of MOAs that need to be established. Memoranda of action.
What's the time frame for that? And does that mean that there could be SHA operated authorized speed cameras after that process is complete?
So we wouldn't manage it. Like I said, we stay away from any automated speed enforcement programs that generate any funds. So it will be the police department that will manage it. We simply permit it and we inspect it to make sure that it's functioning properly. But to answer your question, I think you asked about the timeline. We wouldn't permit it to be installed during purple line construction. So we're talking about in the ultimate condition.
Thank you. This is a general comment. If anybody has any questions, please try to use the raise your hand button, which is under the reactions tab. Chris Meyer.
I just want to ask a clarification about that point. We're talking about whether the stretch of Wayne is a school zone. Is that the question? Or whether there can be speed cameras as a result of it being a school zone. The reason why I ask is that I've noticed that on the signs along Wayne, so if you're coming from Sligo Creek heading towards Mansfield and Dale, there used to be a sign that said school zone and the lights would be flashing. I've noticed that, I don't know when this was, but maybe like several months ago that those signs have been separated, where now there's a sign that says something to the effect that there's a school up ahead and there's also flashing lights, but those things are not coupled together. So I was wondering, where's they used to? It used to say school zone and have flashing lights. I was wondering if that's what was being referred to, if the designation as a school zone was actually like taken away, or if we're just talking about school zone cameras. But also I would say that those signs should be put together because it's really confusing, I think, probably to cars, that it's not clear that it doesn't necessarily look like a typical school zone where you would see flashing lights and the sign that says school zone together.
So what you're referring to are pre-existing signs that MDOT essentially adopted as existing conditions. So we didn't install those. We didn't permit those. They will be removed in due course through construction. So, we haven't really gotten to phase construction of Wayne yet. Right now, it's just utility relocation phase. So I don't recall if it's phase 1 or 2, but when the north side gets constructed, the infrastructure along westbound Wayne Avenue that is not MDOT standard or will not be in the ultimate condition will eventually be removed. So I apologize for the confusion.
I mean, does that mean like, whereas it was a school zone, it's now become not a school zone?
So just because it says school zone doesn't mean MDOT recognized it and has documentation to support it. Montgomery County probably called it a school zone and had the speed camera and whatever series of signs they had associated with it, but MDOT has not approved that or implemented that at all. So that's the process I'm trying to proceed with to accommodate the request for a school zone speed camera.
Okay, but what about just having it marked as a school zone? Because you said you can't do the cameras while there's construction, but could it be designated as a school zone while there's construction? I mean,
yeah, sure, yeah.
Like just putting up that sign, just putting that sign there, I think would do everyone a service to say, hey, there's a school here, please slow down. They may not listen, but at least it would be marked. Right now,
well, you're talking about signage that wouldn't be standard. So I don't want to jump the gun and start proposing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So Matt Pollack, I'm not hearing anything constructive, something that we can take back to our other neighbors about how we can make Wayne Avenue during the Purple Line construction, particularly the relocations, safer for pedestrians. I don't hear that other than there's a good intention to try to do that. What can you say about that?
All right, first of all, apologize for the background noise a little bit. They're vacuuming in the office building here. So hopefully you all aren't hearing that too much. So obviously, if there is some sort of active safety adjustment we can make to our construction zones, we want to make it, right? I think it's really it's a way of working around construction when you're living around construction, which is inconvenient, which is unwanted, regardless of whether you're pro purple line or anti purple line. You still don't want construction in your area. You don't want your sidewalks blocked or everything. But I mean, it's unfortunately, you have to understand that the inconvenience in some cases is for your safety. So in other words, if you're looking down Wayne and the sidewalk looks blocked, so say you're at Springvale on the south side and you're looking towards Sims, ignoring the blind curves and everything, and if in front of you the sidewalk looks blocked, you need to look behind you and you need to find the traffic light, and that's where you need to cross. You know, and it's not meant as a way of saying that people aren't being safe, but the way the safety is set up, it is sometimes inconvenience, but it is inconvenience to be safe. And so I hope that people don't feel that they're being forced to do anything that's unsafe, because we're trying to put the signage out there. We're trying to block unsafe pedestrian access in order to funnel you, if you will, towards a safer area. And if we can do that better, you know, we want to. And going back to a comment earlier, I think it was Ms. Kavanaugh about, you know, only speaking every 12 or 18 months. I think you're right. I don't think that meeting every 18 months is going to help either of us, right? Because we don't want to get into this situation where we're talking past each other. Or, you know, I think, you know, getting together more often, whether it's in the field or having updates, is a positive thing. You know, I don't think over the last, I've only been on the job for about 18 months, but I don't think we've really turned down opportunities to come in and talk to folks, because I think it's helpful. You know, I love the pictures everybody sends. Sometimes the picture doesn't tell the whole story, and so it's good to get out there and figure things out. You know, I don't know that I can, you know, just sit here today, Alan, and give you a concrete answer. But I do think that communication is going to help it, if you will.
So let me just say that, you know, we've asked for briefings from Purple Line on this particular segment, and we were told to wait for the CAT meetings, which did not come timely. And the video that was supposed to be posted on the website was not timely either. So we've made requests for more communication and more discussion with Purple Line, and we haven't got it. What can you do about having a designated person who's sort of the pedestrian safety coordinator during these critical times of the day? Somebody who can walk along the sidewalks of Wayne Avenue in particular and ensure that there are not, you know, hoses that are, you know, jeopardizing, you know, kids going and their families going to schools, making sure that there's not a crowd of workers, you know, who are blocking the sidewalk and making people walk too close to the construction machinery. It seems like if there's who has that responsibility now to make sure that the sidewalks are clear for a safe route to school?
Well, it's the state. I mean, it falls on me. It's my team. It's our job to create that safe environment, including setting up the signage and keeping an eye on that signage. And if that is not happening, then it comes back to us, the state, right?
I guess I was asking whether
yeah.
or not there's somebody out there every day, during school hours, going to school, coming back from school. Is there somebody from Purple Line, from MTA, whose regular job is to make sure that pedestrians are not overly inconvenienced?
We have staff absolutely that go out there every day. We don't have people at every site at all times. We have inspection staff that move across. But yeah, I mean, that is our responsibility, right? It's our responsibility to maintain the safe construction site.
So
I'd be
able to go out to the intersection of Wayne Avenue and Dale Drive after the holidays, sometime in February, when the kids are going back to school, and I should be able to ask somebody to point out who is the Purple Line, the MTA representative there, who is concerned with pedestrian safety and making sure that the sidewalks are not blocked.
Well, let's be careful of the wording we're using, Alan. We have people that are responsible for making the sites safe for pedestrians. We are not pedestrian safety officers. We can't be responsible for traffic safety or pedestrian safety. That is up to each individual. But I think the answer to your question is yes. I just want to make sure that we're not, setting up an expectation that we are de facto crossing guards, are able to help you cross at a location that perhaps isn't set up for crossing.
Well, before I recognize
Yeah.
Chris Meyer, does the contractor have any responsibility to make sure that those passageways, the sidewalks, are not obstructed with equipment or hoses or personnel? Does the contractor have that responsibility?
Yeah, I mean, certainly to the extent that they're not actually working in that sidewalk or that location, right? Then the areas that are designated for safe pedestrian access should be maintained for safe pedestrian access.
And is there a supervisor for the utility work that's going on at that location, that if somebody had a complaint, they'd be able to identify that person and say, you got the cones, forcing our kids into the street, you've got too many cones there, or these people are just hanging out smoking near the gas lines. Is there somebody on site for the contractor who we could bring these concerns to?
Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be a responsible person for each construction site. Now, I'm not putting it on you to go around and do that if you don't feel comfortable doing that. Again, that's what we're around for. So if you contact us, we're happy to have that communication as well. But to the extent that someone is curious, there will be a responsible person on site.
I don't have any problem with it, but sometimes it's quite immediate, and somebody's walking to school and they find that they have to go into a traffic lane to get around something, or they have to step over something that they shouldn't have to step over. So we will we'll follow up on that. Chris Myers and Charlene. Chris?
Yeah, just one or two comments. So I understand, like, sometimes sidewalks are closed down and it says, like, please cross the road to at a different point in order to cross the road because there's work being done. But at that particular intersection, if in the case where the photo was where the kids were having to cross Wayne Avenue because to cross Wayne because the sidewalk was shut down.
Yeah.
If they wanted to use a signaled intersection, they would have to travel a kilometer to get back to Cedar Street in order to to cross Wayne to go to school. So that's where, I can understand like an inconvenience, but there's a level of just ridiculousness there where because there's no signalized crosswalks along that whole stretch, it really doesn't leave any safe alternative when the sidewalk is closed like that. So like, I get your point in general, but in specifics, there's just so many factors leading in here that that just make it untenable. And then the other question is kind of like building off of what Alan's saying. Typically, I deal a lot in contracts, and we have performance metrics, right? So, contractor has to do X, Y, Z, otherwise penalties. I would expect something similar in your construction contracts, where if there's a level of complaints, that there would be financial penalties to the contractor for not meeting performance metrics, right? So like if they're doing work to along near the sidewalk, then they would be expected to construct a temporary sidewalk so that pedestrians could follow through. And if they don't, then I would imagine that the complaints would lead to some kind of penalty. Does that mechanism exist? And like, are you logging each of these complaints so that when you're reviewing the monthly invoices and things like that, and you say, oh, you had 500 complaints this month, that's not good, and that's not good enough. It comes down to that accountability. Like, what can we put the screws to them in terms of holding the contractor accountable to good performance?
Chris, that's actually, it's a good question. We do not have those types of incentives in the contracts we have. Part of that is due to the way it's set up with our temporary construction effort for the last year and a few months. We've actually been, working these 150 contracts that were actually subcontracts. They weren't prime contracts. So they were not put together with the same type of a stringency that perhaps a prime contract would have had. We are getting our new design build contractor on board, hopefully mobilizing in the spring. And, at that point, I think there may be a different incentive structure for them. But currently we don't have that, unfortunately. Not that it's not a great idea. It's always great to see what your contract doesn't have.
Let's move on to Charlene Reeves, and then
after Charlene speaks, can I just say something?
Charles?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. First of all, I wanted to thank Chris for a really terrific presentation. The graphics were amazingly good, and I'm really happy to hear that there are other people in the neighborhood who have been concerned about safety issues, as I have for the last 40 years that I've lived here. But I'm really disappointed to hear talk by DOT about another study I live on Dale Drive. I have seen pretty much everything, accidents, near accidents. There hasn't been much in the years that I've lived here that hasn't happened along that stretch, particularly the stretch that we're not talking about much tonight is the stretch between Pershing Drive and Colesville Road. There have been many requests for a four-way stop. There have been studies done. There have been traffic studies that I've requested more than once. The results have always been that nothing really needs to be done. Everything is just fine. And I look around the county. I noticed, for example, over on Belpre Road in Aspen Hill, they have raised crosswalks. Every crosswalk that crosses Belpre Road has a raised striped crosswalk, and eventually a stop sign at Arctic. There's another similar kind of thing over in the district. We know just off of 16th Street. More and more, I think efforts are being made to try to do something to slow the traffic and make more safety, not only for pedestrians, for bike riders, and for other drivers. I was actually run into coming out of my driveway head first by a speeder between Pershing and Ellsworth Drive. And that was 2 years ago. And I have made efforts to try to do something about it, get some kind of traffic control device. And it's always been nothing than we can't do that, or we need to do another study. I think Alan has sort of pointed this out and trying to get something positive, something tangible that we in the community can feel like something is getting done by our government. Dale Drive used to be a state road. Now it is a county road, but the safety has not improved. 20-mile-per-hour signs that have been posted are routinely avoided. We see traffic, actually cars crossing the double yellow line, passing on Dale Drive, particularly in the straightaway between Pershing and Mrs. K's. So I would just like to hear somebody say something like the plea that Jean was saying. All these years that we've lived here, all these years, we've tried to find some avenue to get something done to reduce the speeding and improve the safety. And precious little, I have to confess, has really happened in all the years that I've lived here. Jean told me actually probably 10 years ago that nothing would ever be done on Dale, so I shouldn't waste my time. But anyway, I wanted to bring this up. I think it's great that Alan is conducting this meeting, and I thought Chris's presentation was right on. 25 mile per hour speed limit on Dale would be a very appropriate limit. The raised crosswalk at Pershing would be reasonable. Somebody has to start thinking outside the box. We don't need to have another accident or, God forbid, a death at end of one of these intersections. Something should be done before that. That's my piece.
Thank you, Charles. Our focus had switched away from Dale Drive, which is accidents waiting to happen. I don't have to tell that to the people who live between Fleetwood and the bottom of the hill. Charlene Reeves next. Charlene Reeves. Your hand is raised.
Yes, I'm sorry. My question is bottom line, if my child is hurt by the car that didn't see the child, who do I sue? Do I, if I'm on Wayne Avenue, do I sue the state? Do I go in for the Purple Line and their contractors, subcontractors? I mean, the accountability, it's like watching a can being kicked from, one entity to the other and things like merely getting a speed limit changed down a very curvy, hilly road is nearly impossible. So I guess my question is how does your average resident, what do we need to do to get these changes done that don't seem to ever get done? If you were advising somebody how you go about this to make things safer and literally to have little school kids be able to make it to school without, worrying about their personal safety. Thank you. Thank you for showing up too. I appreciate it.
Can I jump in here?
Yeah, please.
Okay, I want to, on behalf of SHA, go through some points because today I walked the entire Wayne Avenue corridor just to make sure I understood the existing conditions. And the impact of the actual utility relocations, and then I went through the design so I can give you guys a good summary of what is there and what will be there. So I also wanted to give some perspective as to what SHA has done since the last meeting that you guys conducted. So a few points from SHA's perspective. We did move forward with installing the oversized speed limit signs. We did have the enhanced conspicuity panels, or those yellow panels above the speed limit signs. We did install the flags above those signs. So from an engineering standpoint, we certainly took every effort to make sure that the education aspect, every motorist can see the lowest speed limit along the corridor. Additionally, we did install the transverse rumble strips near Dale Drive on both approaches. That is also considered a traffic calming effect. Excuse me. We did get approved no turn on red conditions for Dale Drive, Mansfield Road, and Sligo Creek Parkway, which will come in the ultimate condition of the Purple Line project. Specifically for Dale, it's the northbound approach, southbound approach, and the eastbound approach for no turn on red. For Mansfield Road, the northbound approach will have no turn on red. Sligo Creek Parkway, no turn on red for the eastbound approach. As far as the ultimate condition for the Purple Line, what improvements there will be forthcoming is continuous sidewalk on the south side, continuous shared use path on the north side. There will be an LPI on Sligo Creek Parkway on the west leg, so the trail crossing. There will be a new signal with exclusive pedestrian phase at the tunnel entrance where the apartment entrance is. There will be a new signal at Manchester Road. Some of these things you already know. I mentioned that there's going to be a school zone established from Dale to Manchester. Of course, with Purple Line, there's going to be area-wide signal and ADA compliance upgrades. And what everyone hates right now the most, which is the utility relocation, that will move all the poles, the utility poles, out of the sidewalks in the ultimate condition. So the Purple Line, utility relocation is a little messy, but that will be bringing everything up to ADA compliance throughout the corridor. I just wanted to say that before we get to 9 o'clock.
No, we appreciate that. Thank you very much for that summary. To Charlene, who was talking about who do you hold accountable, the answer is just sue everybody and, and let it get sorted out later. Marin Hill.
Sorry, I was looking for my unmute, but thanks to Chris and Alan for organizing this meeting and for SHA and CDOT and MTA for being here. I had a question, and perhaps this is different for MDOT and CDOT, but could you tell us a little bit about how you prioritize projects or project areas? Because I know that we're a big county, and then there's the state beyond, and I think that sometimes it's helpful to find out how you're prioritizing a specific corridor and how you might prioritize it against other projects or priorities within the state or within Montgomery County. Like, what are the characteristics? Is it like school zones? Is there equity considerations? Is it about fatalities and severe injuries? And how you prioritize?
Is that to the county first, or do you want me to?
Either one. I don't think it matters which, like whoever you want to jump in front of the bus first, so to speak. Go ahead, and then the county can reply.
I'll just say that it's certainly complicated and it's a very broad topic. There's many different metrics for how a project gets prioritized. First and foremost, there's safety. Then there's mobility through a corridor. There's class of the roadway. There's context of the roadway. There's pedestrian demand. There's bicyclist demand. There's a vast array of needs and wants, and I don't think there's a very clean answer to how all projects get prioritized, but safety is certainly amongst the number one issues that we deal with every single day, followed by operations right next to it. So, it's not a great answer, but that's my answer.
Well, and I guess to have like to understand a little bit more, you know, when you say safety, I think that one thing that's really difficult for, you know, us as people who walk around our neighborhood is things can feel very unsafe without being potentially considered unsafe by MDOT. So I guess like what are the type of again back to metrics that you look at as to classify an area as like a high needs area?
It sounds like you're referring to pedestrian amenities, right? Is that what we're getting at?
Yeah, I mean, it could be, but it also could be like there are high crash areas that are more dangerous for people in vehicles than pedestrians, and they're still dangerous, correct? And you can still put in traffic calming that relates to vehicles as well.
So I think it was Chris that referenced some traffic calming devices that were installed on Flower Avenue near Washington Adventist University. That section of Flower, Chris, is that right? Just nodded. Am I right? Was that you? Yeah. So that section of Flower was transferred to the city of Tacoma Park from Piney down to their city limits. So that was not an MDOT SHA effort. So what he's describing, I believe, if I understand what he's saying, that's what's called a chicane. It's essentially just like a bump out into the roadway to narrow the roadway to calm traffic. Usually it coincides with a pedestrian crosswalk, like a mid-block crosswalk. So that is a traffic calming effort or measure that, you know, MDOT SHA wouldn't typically do unless it's a, you know, very lower class roadway, like a service road or something to that effect. ADA compliance is a big deal. Signal upgrades get programmed year round for ADA compliance. You know, a lot of signals are older and they need to be brought up to current MDOT SHA standards. So that is, if we're talking pedestrian specific, that is one of the bigger criteria that rank pedestrian projects up. Again, I don't know if that's a great answer, but I got to focus it on something to at least get a clear answer. Thanks.
Everybody, we're going to go until 9 o'clock. I'm going to thank our guests now who've been very helpful and generally very responsive. I would like to go back to Matt and just get some clarification on this. Are you saying that these contractors on Wayne Avenue doing the utility relocation, that all of those crews have a responsible person who could address residents' concerns about pedestrian safety issues?
No, I'm saying that each construction site should have a person responsible for managing that site.
And that
we have a separate contractor doing our maintenance of traffic operations. So that setup is happening by another contractor who's coming in most cases, although in some cases the contractors are putting in their own maintenance of traffic. The maintenance of traffic design is set up by our engineers of record, and they are handed over to the construction contractors. So the construction contractors aren't deciding what maintenance of traffic and what safety will put in place. It's being designed for them.
I can understand that, but is there somebody on the site every day who's got responsibility for directing crews and saying that they need to make a passage, they need to have an alternate route around some kind of obstructions? There's somebody on site every day that somebody could go to and say, hey, there's a problem over across the street.
Yeah, I mean, it's what I was saying before, Alan. I can't state that they're there at all times because they're covering multiple construction sites. So they may be on Bonifant, or they may be at the Silver Spring Transit Center. But there are people who are responsible and stop by every day. I wouldn't necessarily say that the minute you show up, unfortunately, someone's going to be there. That's why we try and have the response on the phone, so that if you call and we need to get someone out there, we can immediately dispatch the person to the site.
I wasn't talking about a state employee, an MTA or SHA employee. I was just talking about whether or not the private contractor has got somebody on site that we could talk to.
I don't want to commit to that, Alan. I'm not sure the answer to that question. Let me get back to you. I think basically our contractors have someone, a safety officer. Each contractor has a safety officer, but I don't know if I can't state that they go to every site every day or how that works or what their coverage is. I'm afraid I just don't know the answer to that, Alan.
Okay, we would appreciate some feedback.
Yeah, let me follow up on that. Okay.
Maren, do you have another question, or Chris Meyer? Chris, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I just wanted to, maybe it's pointing at something a little bit obvious, but as a pedestrian, you might wake up one morning and the sidewalk is closed down. You could flip the script and just shut the roadway down randomly one day. So clearly, in terms of prioritizing, cars are always given the priority. I mean, that much is obvious to me, and I think it's unfortunate because the pedestrians should have equal use of these public transit ways. Then the other question, I guess, was following up on your recent point. Would it be better to, I guess the people that are out there doing the work are generally pretty friendly. So if you came with them to a concern, they might be able to fix a situation. Would it be better to contact the contractor that's doing the maintenance of the roadway, the maintenance of the transportation, or the one that's doing the construction?
But you most likely aren't going to be able to contact the folks that are setting up the maintenance of traffic. They show up in the morning or the afternoon. They're not there during the day. During the day, they're out probably going somewhere else and cutting grass or something like that. So I mean, they're sort of multitasking. To the extent
Gotcha.
that
So they set up the cones and then they leave. So there's no one
the signs and the freestanding signs and the electronic signs and stuff like that. Yes.
Gotcha. So they set it up and then they.
Site.
Okay, because sometimes it would just be a question of just moving the cones over like 3 feet or something like that. Okay, got it. Yeah, I mean that would be helpful if there was someone to just like move the cones over or something. But I guess that's just not how it's done. Okay, thanks.
Let me just say one thing. So I disagree with the characterization about sidewalk pollution. It's a necessary evil when you have to do some work along the sidewalk, but we do always intend to maintain pedestrian mobility. So if the sidewalk is closed on one side, the other side must be open and clear. Similar to a lane closure, sometimes a sidewalk closure is required, but if there's any concerns or issues with inadequate signage, that's something that we would want to be concerned about. But sidewalk closures are not uncommon. It's just making sure that pedestrians are aware and motorists are aware of the detours pedestrians crossing on both sides.
Yeah, but in reality, there's like along Piney Branch, there's been a sign in the middle of the roadway that says sidewalk closed. The sidewalk is not closed. It's completely accessible. I don't know why the sign is there, but it's been there for like 2 months now. Meanwhile, the sidewalk on the other side of the road gets closed down. So, I mean, these things do happen. Just like Chris showed the picture of all the poles in the middle of the sidewalk. Like you would never design a street with poles in the middle of the road. These things are just not, they don't happen. So the pedestrians always get the short shrift. It's just a question of how bad is the situation going to be? Is it going to be deadly, or is it just going to be, mildly inconvenient? But it's unfortunate. I mean, it just seems to be the way transportation is handled, where it's designed for cars first, and pedestrians, bikers always get the second thought.
Okay, I'll respectfully disagree. I do agree that you know, the roadways were designed for vehicles first, but everything is evolving towards pedestrians and multimodal, you know, bicyclists as well. So when you do see utility poles, a line of utility poles on the sidewalk, that's unfortunate, and it's clearly been grandfathered in from a bygone era. But you know, specifically on Wayne Avenue, all of that's being relocated specifically to address that outdated design that you're talking about. So I agree that it was like that, but I can tell you on behalf of FHA, and probably Matt would agree for MTA, that's not how it is now.
Yeah, but I'm saying the contractors doing the work, for instance, will put signs that say road closed. They'll put it in the sidewalk. So like they don't put the sign that says road closed in the road. It goes in the sidewalk. So the pedestrians would have to move the sign out of the way. It's just little things like that that go on.
Windmaster, yeah. So if you observe stuff like that, please let us know, and you know we'll have that addressed. That's just user error on their part. They shouldn't be doing that.
So Joseph, who are we letting know? Are we letting SHA know or MTA know?
So I don't want to interfere with MTA's process, but for something simple like that, you know, you can just let me know and I'll pass it along.
We have each other on speed dial, so
Yeah,
we're happy to pass things along to each other. That's not a problem.
Yep.
So
I just wanted to really quickly say thanks to Kathleen Connor and Congressman Raskin's office for joining the call, and also Austin Morris with Senator Van Hollen's office. Thank you both for joining us. Back to you guys.
we also want to recognize Delegate David Moon, who joined the call a while back. Nina Vucinic has posted sort of the transcendental question here. Since this meeting is coming to a close, what are some concrete actionable steps that the officials online can commit to, at least entertaining and considering? So we've had a 2-hour meeting. My comfort level has not been raised that the pedestrian safety issues that we've identified through our discussion and through the pictures are going to be addressed. And I don't feel at all comfortable that we got to talk about some of the main issues facing the Dale Drive segment from Wayne Avenue to Piney Branch Road, which is still a dangerous stretch of road. But for the SHA and for the Purple Line representatives, what can you say what are the lessons that you drew from this, and what do you think should be our next steps for making this a safer, Wayne Avenue a safer thoroughfare? Matt, you can go first.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, to me, the takeaway is that there's still, we still need to improve. That doesn't impress you all, but it's a truth. You know, there's been a lot of turnover in the construction industry. Part of the issue is that, you know, the crew that we had one week may not be the crew that comes the next week because they've quit and got a better job in another town, you know, down the street. And not to excuse that, but it is another issue that we're dealing with. So it reminds us that we have to keep on our contractors and help them do the job that they're supposed to do, you know? And so, I mean, really, all I can commit to is being responsive. You know, I can't, you know, sit here and tell you that there is some systematic or systemic thing that I can do to change what's going on or to mitigate the inconvenience. Unfortunately, you know, I can just tell you that we're trying, and that we hope we can meet your expectations, or, you know, at least be responsive.
We appreciate that, Matt. And what about Joseph? What about what's your takeaway from this meeting? And we do appreciate your creative thinking about the school zone in SHA, and that's important. But what lesson did you pull out from this conversation and presentation?
Sure. First of all, thanks everybody for inviting us. I would say that my takeaway is that your frustration is more in the short term, in the immediate construction. Its impacts to sidewalks, its impacts to and from school, and I guess secondarily driving through the corridor. You know, we SHA, we wouldn't interfere too much with an active construction project as far as MTA is concerned, but we have taken certain actions as far as speed is concerned. So that, like I said earlier, was the speed limit signing and the transverse rumble strips and that speed trailer. We might consider coming through Purple Line site to reinstall the transverse rumble strips if they're faded. We could consider small incremental measures such as that, but more than anything, we don't want to interfere with Purple Line's project. It's very active utility rotation, as you all know. So SHA's role is more in the design, in the ultimate condition, and small tweaks in the MOT, or each phase of maintenance of traffic through phase construction. So like I said earlier, we did move forward ensuring that the ultimate design has an LPI for Sligo Creek Parkway. We do have no turn on red for 3 intersections along the subject corridor of Wayne Avenue. I am going to move forward with the school zone MOA as soon as it's feasible. We're definitely giving it a lot of attention. So, I am certainly busy with both Montgomery and Prince George County and all of Purple Line. I spent a lot of time on Wayne Avenue, so I don't want you guys to think that the state is neglecting this corridor. Purple Line is always talking about Wayne Avenue and Bonifant. It's very busy. It's probably the most busy portion of the Purple Line right now. So I just want everybody to at least understand that we are focusing heavily on this corridor. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate your attendance to this community meeting that we're having this evening. We will be following up. I want to thank Kelly and Chris for their yeoman's work in putting the presentation together. We will continue to follow this issue very closely on a daily basis, I can tell. So thank you, everybody who's able to join us. This meeting has been recorded and will be uploaded to various places by tomorrow morning. So Chris, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Matt,
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Happy New Year.
Good night.
Happy New Year.
Thanks, Alan.